There's no doubting the grave humanitarian situation in parts of the world. After a recent visit to 4 nations, the UN humanitarian chief warned of famine and starvation. Stephen O'Brien said it was the largest humanitarian crisis since the UN was founded at the end of World War II. The UN's urging all nations, and in particular the world's richest countries, to give more to alleviate poverty, feed people and save the lives of men, women and children. President Trump's first budget has been produced and he's not heeded that call. Foreign aid will be slashed, as will funding for the UN. At a news conference, I asked Trump's budget director about the effect on those suffering around the world. His answer was extremely blunt. The United Nations says the world's currently facing the largest humanitarian crisis since the end of World War II, and yet you're cutting funding to the UN, funding to the foreign aid budget. Are you worried that some of the most vulnerable people on earth will suffer as a result?
We're absolutely reducing funding to the UN and to the various foreign aid programs, including those run by the UN and other agencies. That should come as a surprise to no one who watched the campaign. The president said specifically, hundreds of times, you covered him, I'm going to spend less money on people overseas and more money on people back home. And that's exactly what we're doing with this budget.
At the UN, the Secretary General's spokesman used diplomatic language to register their concern.
Abrupt funding cuts can't force the adoption of ad hoc measures that will undermine the impact of longer-term reform efforts.
But aid workers I've spoken to are much more direct, devastated and angry at a budget that will also slash State Department funding and instead give an extra $54 billion to the US military. The theme of this budget is very clear. It says it on the cover, America First. But that means there are likely now to be large cuts to aid programs that help the most needy around the world. It's also worth noting that the US in the past has been a moral leader. If it cuts its aid budget, other countries may well follow. James Bays, Al Jazeera, at the White House.